Welcome in, everybody. Mikey Wine here, aka Gundam Hi Nu Works. How's it going? It's Sunday afternoon. For me, it might be Monday morning for you. I don't know. We're just working on the base for the Hi Nu HWS, and I've got various little products here that I'm going to show and demonstrate as I'm applying this here. Right now, this just looks like a very poorly frosted cake, I think, but I'm gonna be putting some weathering colors on there, and then if I get time, I'll start using some pigments and stuff. But so anyway, right now the plaster is dried and fully set. I had to repair a few cracks because as everything starts to cure, it was kind of putting pressure on some of these pieces and caused it to crack. So I had to fill those cracks, and then it looks like it's pretty much dry now. It's done settling. It's not going to change anymore. I can go ahead and start coloring it, but pretty much this is what I have right now. And I only have two colors on here at the moment. And these are Mr. Hobby weathering colors. I've got the multi-black, a ground brown, a grayish brown, and a sandy wash. So dark to light. I started with the black, and I went through and did some of the lower areas, as you can see here with the black lines, and then I'm filling it in with, I'm just using the grayish brown as kind of like a base, and then I'll go and highlight some of those areas. But it's kind of nice the way this stuff soaks into the plaster. It kind of creates its own highlights. Some of the high areas are lighter, the lower areas are darker, and yeah, so it's not going to take much to really make this whole thing pop when I'm done. Do me a favor, if anybody's watching, if my audio sounds funky, let me know. I've had some audio issues, and I'm actually getting a new microphone tomorrow. It's a little too late for this broadcast, unfortunately, but I switched around the settings. I might have accidentally picked the wrong microphone last broadcast, and it was kind of funky sound. It almost sounded like robotic at times, and it kind of like sounded like I was in a echo chamber or something. But I think I got the right microphone for this one anyway. So let me know in the comments if it sounds weird. I'll change it up, and you guys can let me know how it sounds. So anyway, so let's get started. What I've got here, these are Mr. Hobby weathering color. They're an enamel-based, very thin wash, similar to the Tamiya Panaline accent color. They just have, I think anyway, I could be wrong, but they seem to have more different colors available. Like this is ground brown, and they've got a sandy brown, or grayish brown, excuse me, and then a sandy wash. So they're all different shades. It seems a little bit more availability of colors in that line than as opposed to the Tamiya line. Like this, the regular Panaline accent colors, kind of like brown, gray, white, and black. There's not a whole lot of different shades that are available. And then on the other side here, I have dry pigments. Now, this stuff is insane. I love it. I got these from AIM Products. I got a few of them a few years ago, and then I picked up some more colors shortly after that. And this is dusty brown, medium earth, dark earth, soot black, and grimy black. There's a whole array of different colors, and they're really fine powder, but very, very potent, I should say. That you don't need to use a whole lot. A little goes a long way, especially when you're trying to highlight colors on something like this with the ground. I'm trying to make this look like an asteroid, so just to let everyone in on the on what I'm actually doing, and I'm hoping that's the effect I'm achieving here. It looks pretty good so far, so I'm just going to keep putting down this base color, and then I can go back over and start highlighting some of the darker areas and lighter areas. I might try a little bit and test. I also have a few of these little filter colors. This is an orange rust. One second. Yes, actually I am. My wife's asking me if I'm doing a broadcast. Yes. So, and then I got a couple other colors, but just not the right type for this type of stuff. Purples and violets and stuff like that. So I may use this. I may not. This is rust orange. We'll see how that plays out, whether or not that needs to be added or not. So without any other information there, I'm going to get started. Again, let me know how my audio sounds. Let me know if it's sounding distorted or anything like that. I'll pick a different microphone and we'll go from there. One thing that is different about these Mr. Colors is they don't come with a, hang on a sec. When is it over? When it's over. Just a sec. Be patient. I apologize. All right. So I'm going to use just a kind of like a medium brush. This is one I've had for years. I'm not even sure of the type of bristle, but it works well with this filter or this weathering colors. And I'm just going in and just straight up putting it on here. It will soak in because this is plaster. It's very porous, so it is going to kind of soak in and highlight some of those high areas and low areas as well. Like I said, I'm going to go back through and darken some of those lower areas and the grooves and the cracks and stuff. So try to achieve like a nice 3D rocky kind of effect, like an asteroid. And I have a couple screenshots from the actual anime, and there's a lot of green in those asteroids. I'm not sure if I'm going to go that color scheme. I'm thinking more toward the brown and gray scale, but we'll see. So this is a little bit at a time. And you can see how when it soaks in, some of those higher textures show through and actually give it a nice textured effect without even really trying. The other thing about this stuff is because it's porous, there's a lot of little holes, little air bubbles and stuff that have surfaced during the curing process, and sometimes it's hard to get the wash into those little holes, but you just have to kind of preload the brush pretty good and then it'll go in there. So let me know how my audio sounds. If it's garbled or distorted, I need to know, because I'm really trying to work on those audio problems I had last time. So I'm just waiting for somebody to chime in and let me know. Hey, dude. Oh, hey. Question is there. I'll bring this up on the screen here. And question is, how's the wife? Last night we had an interesting night. I've been up pretty late. She's doing good, George. No concussion type symptoms. Just a sore head. Not nearly as bad as last night. She's doing well. In fact, she's been texting me, asking me if I'm doing a broadcast tonight and when it's over, because she wants me to get dinner. So anyway, my question to you guys is, how does my audio sound? I need to know if it's distorted. I had some issues, people telling me that it was distorted last time. I may have had the wrong microphone selected in my settings, so I was trying to change it up and pick a different one today and see if it sounds. If it sounds okay, let me know. What is up, Kodokai? How you doing, buddy? Now go get dinner. I know. Well, if I do that, then I got to shut down the stream, right? He's like, now go get dinner. Still in Seattle, might cut out here during reception. Oh, well, no, I'm talking about my audio, Angel. You let me know how my audio sounds. I need to know if it sounds okay. Does it sound okay to you guys? Because I had to switch up my microphone last time, so. But what I'm doing here, just catch up since you guys just joined. I've got some of these Mr. Color weathering colors, black, 3 shades of brown. I've got some dry pigments here too. And I'm just putting down a base wash. Not to start, it sounds normal. Awesome. I'm glad, because last time I think I picked the wrong microphone. Hang on a sec. Here we go. Any chance you could be earlier? I'm going to need help. Okay, yeah. Well, we'll make this one a short broadcast time. Maybe just an hour or so, because I got to tend to the wife too. Give me a second to respond here. We'll just go an hour tonight and go from there. So, getting back, I just got these Mr. Color pigments. Mr. Color, excuse me, weathering colors. They're more like washes, enamel based, very similar to the Tamiya accent colors, only they seem to have a lot more a variety of different colors to choose from. So I've got blacks and browns, and then 5 different dry pigments. These are from AIM products. I don't know if you can read that. And they're really, really intense. They're very, very potent. You just basically put a little bit on a brush. This is my pigment brush, and just dab it in and rub it in. But they're very, very strong. You don't have to use a lot. You can actually overdo it if you get too carried away. So you got to be kind of careful with it. But so I'm just trying to put down the base brown, and then I'm going to go through and start highlighting the highs and lows and high and low areas and stuff like that. So where I'm at counting in 5 by 5. Oh, good. I'm good. Oh, goodness. Okay. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. My wife's like, she says she's going to McDonald's now. She's hungry. So I'm just applying this down. I put some black into the lower kind of cracks and stuff like that. I'm going over it with this grayish brown color and just kind of letting it soak in. It's kind of nice with this wash because as it soaks down, some of the higher areas kind of create their own highlight effects as it soaks down, so you don't have to do a lot of dry brushing on top of it. Can you get that sorted with Kyle? Oh, yes, I did actually. He is the one he is sending me. Here, let me put this on screen. I can actually put these on screen. So the question is, did I get that sorted? This is the audio issue I've been having. Yeah, Kyle is sending me his one of the microphones he used to use. I've been talking about upgrading. So it will be here tomorrow. And I can try that out. I didn't have, that's why I wanted to make sure this one was actually okay for tonight. Because I think I selected the wrong one. I was playing with the settings, and somebody told me it didn't even sound like me as I was talking. So that's why I went back and changed it to one of the other microphone settings. So it sounds good. It sounds good. I'm going to keep going with it until I get the new one tomorrow. Right now, this just looks like a really bad Really poorly frosted cake, right? That's what my wife says anyway. No matter how hard I try, it's not looking any better. But I've got some of these base colors going on, so it will look better when it's done. Yeah, it's not too bad, George. George says the base is not bad. What you really can't see is that my inexperience with using this type of plaster, this hydrocal, is there's a lot of water that you mix into it when you're preparing it before you pour it into a mold. And the wood base that I bought is actually made for like a clock. If you're making, doing a DIY project and making a clock. So it's this nice round plaque of wood, right? Well, as soon as you put something on it that has a ton of moisture in it, what happens? It warps. And it warped pretty severely, to be honest. I'm gonna lift this up. I'll kind of show you. See all these. I got these little furniture pads underneath it to help balance it out because it's so curved. You can kind of see the curve right there. It's really bad. But yeah, I think it's done warping now. Now that it's dried, everything is completely cured. So hopefully I don't have any more issues like that. I was repairing a few cracks along the way too, because as everything started to dry and settle, it was just putting pressure all over the mold and starting to crack it, pull it apart in some cases. So I had to mix up some thin batches and kind of pour it in there and fill up the cracks. But I'm just trying to get a base together so I can use it next month. Yeah, it did warp like crazy. It's funny. I hadn't even stuck the molds on there yet. I was just kind of placing them on there to see where I was going to, put everything together. So I was kind of just setting them on there and breaking some of them up, and so I could get the right pieces in the right place. And I let them sit there overnight, not even really glued, and just the moisture in those first few molds transferred to the wood and actually warped it a little bit. But I was able to put like a heavy box on it and kind of flatten it out after I took it off. But as soon as I went to stick these back on, when it came time to actually place the molds on there and adhere and glue them down using more plaster, it just reactivated that warp and caused it to warp again, even more so. But hopefully it's done warping. Yep. Yep. So it's going to keep going here, and I'm going to see how this, as it soaks in, you can see some of those highlight areas, they light up and kind of give a nice, it's kind of unintentional, but it's a nice touch. It's kind of makes it so I don't have to do as much dry brushing afterward to highlight those areas because they're already just naturally highlighting as this stuff soaks in. It is kind of crazy how porous this plaster is. It doesn't seem like it would be because it doesn't look that porous, but when you put this stuff on there, it immediately soaks in. So Angel's still in Seattle. He was helping his stepson take some furniture back to Seattle. But the wind and smoke, we've had fires out here, and the wind picked up last night and just stirred up everything again. So now we've got a ton of smoke. And you can kind of probably hear it in my voice. It's kind of scratchy. Just because I got so much smoke. Anybody else have any problem with wildfires? I doubt George does. You guys are in Jersey. So I try to keep showing the comments as they come in, because I realize that people that watch on the YouTube side may not be able to see the comments on the Facebook side. I can see both. So as they pop up, I'll put them on screen, especially if they're relevant to what's going on, what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'll just read them out, So I went on HobbyLink Japan today. All good here in all good in Massachusetts. So you guys don't have any fires going on out there. We have them here. It's kind of funny. We do have fires here, but don't always get a terrible amount of smoke. It's just this one's been bad. It's been close by, and just the firefighters have not been able to really do much because of where it's located. So they're really just doing structural protection and just letting it burn. So we're constantly fighting with smoke, and you wake up and it looks like fog in the morning, but it's actually a combination of, some of it is fog, but a lot of it is smoke as well. So I went on HobbyLink Japan after seeing George's stream this morning. He was showing off some of those wave rivets that he bought. So I went and bought a bunch of packages of those. And I also got one of those little tubing cutters for plastic tubing. I thought that's kind of a nice addition to the toolkit. It's one thing I've always been a fan of. It's like having the right tool for the job, especially in my profession. Sometimes it's, you can fight with making other stuff work, but it sure is nice having the right tool. So yeah, this is starting to look nicer. You can see how it blends as you go. And again, I'm going to highlight some of those. I'm going to soften up these edges with some of those pigments. That will really help when I get down to it. It just takes forever to do this. I could probably use a bigger brush, but the problem is that these little bottles don't have a really big hole. So you can't fit much bigger brush in there. And I want a fair amount of this to soak in. But I have noticed one thing, as when you shake these bottles up at first, everything gets suspended and the color is really rich and vibrant. But as it sits, all that pigment starts to settle again to the bottom. And you'll start to notice that your coverage isn't as good. Which tube cutter? It was one I think it was on the Wave page of HobbyLink Japan. It might be the one you've got. I'm not sure, but it was just a little miniature tube cutter for plastic. Here, I'll put this on here. This is George was asking me which tube cutter. It's just a white, and I don't remember I think it's a Wave brand, because I was kind of searching by just Wave products to try to narrow down my search so I didn't have to go through the entire site. And that was one of the items there. So that's where I bought it from. And everything was discounted. There was a few items on sale. Most of the stuff, like I bought some sanding sticks and that the cutter, and then those rivet sets. About 3 packs each of the rivet sets. It'd be fun to see what I can do with those. You know which one I'm talking about? Yeah. Yeah. Is that the same one you got, George? Because I know I've seen you use one, but I don't know what brand it is. I thought, what a novel idea. I mean, it's one of those funny things where you see them in it. You see people use them for steel pipe and plumbing and stuff, but thought never occurred to me to have something, for softer type materials like plastic, and do the same thing. I'm always cutting them with a razor blade or trying to use the chopper too or something on them. Same one. Oh, good. Well, then and you've had success with it, so I should be fine too. And shipping is just ridiculously expensive, so I could have put it in my private warehouse, but I decided to send it now, so hopefully it'll be here soon. I also have a package coming from Ryan over in Japan. I bought a gun tank from him, and that has made it to Chicago and just sitting there. So we'll see how long it takes before it finally moves out of customs. Hopefully it doesn't get lost. Some people have had bad success with, or bad luck with Chicago, I think, ICS customs. It's weird because he can send something over from Japan and it might go through San Francisco one time, and then the next time it goes through Chicago. I just don't understand any rhyme or reason why the difference in locations when stuff comes from Japan. Hey, thanks, John. What's up, buddy? I haven't seen you in a while. I've known John for quite a few years. I've known him since California, and then he moved up here shortly, a couple of years after I got here, and been living in Washington ever since. There's actually a very, very good builder for someone who hadn't been building very long. He was very talented and very good, and then he decided he was going to start building his truck, and he stopped building models. I'd love to see you get back in and start building again. So I'm almost done with this base color. I might have to shake this up again. It's getting kind of weak. Give it a couple shakes. There we go. We'll get that pigment moving again and get this color nice and dark. So I'm going to cut this video short tonight. Normally I try to go about an hour and a half, 2 hours, but I need to tend to my wife, who can't really do much as far as driving on her own right now. And she could, but her head has been bothering her since last night events. Just have a little simple miter jig. Yeah, I'm going to put that on screen. So Koda says I have a simple little miter jig used on my bench. Jeweler saw. Yeah, that does work. That works too. I have a little saw. I don't have the handle for it, but I do I do use that from time to time. But I think having that little tubing cutter is kind of nice. I even found this guy, which is something that I needed for the Millennium Falcon. I found this little miniature tubing bender for bending like copper tubing and stuff. It's like a miniature version of the big ones that pipe benders use in plumbing and stuff, doing conduit. Works great. I just had some copper tubing that I needed to bend at a slight angle when I was doing that Lando Millennium Falcon build, and I found that one on Amazon. And it was nice. I was able to bend it, and it looked great actually. Just getting down to it here. Sounds handy. Anybody else going to California next month? It kind of works out because it's right around my birthday too, so it gives us a good excuse to take a trip. Oh yeah, lots of cool tools that yeah, I'm all about the tools. I've been turning wrenches for almost 30 years. And it's especially now I just changed brands again after about 12 years in the same with the same brand, and so I'm having to buy specific tools for that, and it's never fun sometimes having to buy tools, but it sure is, like I said, having the right tool sure helps. There's a lot of little nooks and stuff that I have to make sure I got to fill in, but a lot of that powder, when I use the pigments, I can fill in those little holes. Some of these little pinholes and stuff are from little air bubbles and stuff that have come to the surface during the curing process, and it's hard to get this wash in there. But with the pigment powders, when I go over that later, I can easily just drop some powder in there, and that will get rid of all that. The tools rule. Ooh. Yeah, tools rule. I've already spent over $1,000 on tools for Subaru, but I don't have to borrow them. It's one of the unwritten rules in the automotive industry is if you borrow a tool more than twice, then you have to buy your own at that point. Okay, so now I've got that whole top done with that brown. It looks actually pretty good. It looks better on camera than it does in person, but totally spaced the handle. Thanks. Oh. So now I can start mixing it up with some of these other colors. I've got a little bit of a darker brown that I'm going to go and start highlighting a little bit of those darker areas, the lower areas like I did with the black, and kind of blend those so those little cracks and seams will pop a little bit more than that. I'm just going to clean my brush here. I don't need to do this, but I don't like mixing any of the washes together. So I'm just using some lacquer thinner. Takes care of everything. Gets rid of all that let's see what was there. Okay, I'm going to go with the ground brown, which is slightly darker. That looks sexy. Thanks, George. Tools make me drool. Yeah, they do. Sometimes they can. apologize for sounding kind of raspy. It's just all the smoke in my area right now. Yep. Tools make us drool. So I'm going to just test this out, see what this looks like. Put a little bit. I'm flipping these bottles over because I can see the bubbles when I shake it up. And that tells me that all the pigment is off the bottom and it's fully mixed before I open it. But I'm just going to go into some of these grooves with this same brush. I have these highlighted in black, and now I've blended them a little bit with that medium brown. So now I'm going to go back with the darker. And, ooh, I've dunked that way too far. That bottle's a little bit more full than I expected. Saturated that brush. So I'm just going to go in and hit these areas and kind of come out. That's quite a bit, actually. Quite a bit of darkness there. You can really see that on camera. Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to work, but I may have to just use my pigments because that's a little too stark. Let's clean this brush. I'm going to try some pigments. I'm going to go back over with that lighter brown and blend that back out and then try some pigments. Pigments are nice because they're just really just powder. You can seal them if you want. I've done both. I've left them alone sometimes and just put the powder on there and not touch it. And there's other times I've sealed it with a clear coat like you would anything else. You have to be careful because, of course, your airbrush is blowing air, and sometimes it blows away your pigment. Yeah, that works better. I lightened that up a little bit, but I like that little section right there. It looks really good. All right. So I'll cap this off, and we're going to put some pigment on here and just kind of test the waters. I really love these pigments. They're hard to find, the AIM product stuff. I don't know why. And their packaging is very generic. It's just these little square plastic storage thing. I'm not even sure what people use them for, beads or something, and they just ran a piece of like Scotch tape around it. That's how they sealed it. And you got to be careful because you obviously don't want stuff to go everywhere because it's very, very strong powder. So I'm thinking, I think I like the dark earth, which is more of a true brown. This has a little nut red in it, and then this is more of a tannish color, dusty brown. This is like straight up just dark brown. I'm gonna go with that. This is called dark earth weathering powder, and all you have to do is just dab the brush just a tiny bit and get a little bit of pigment on there, and then just spread it around. And can you guys see that? I mean, just that one little bit right there just highlights that one little crack. I'll go over here, hit this one. Yeah, stuff works amazing. Just take your time, just a little bit. Well, it's just practice makes perfect, George. When you talking about working on your pigment, and just go slow. They're great for doing like streaks and stuff on spacecraft models and stuff like that, like exhaust, and they can work for that too. I overdid one of the first Millennium Falcon builds I did, where you have the 6 engine ports back there on the engine deck, and I kind of overdid the pigment. I mean, you can go back over and paint over it or remove it with water, or but it's easier probably just to paint over at that point because the stuff sticks to the surface so well. It's hard to get rid of all of it, even if you try to just remove it with water or a Q-tip or something. So you gotta be careful. It's easier to add more. It's a lot harder to take it away, especially because this stuff is such a fine powder. Yeah, so now you can kind of get an idea of what we're trying to achieve here with this. And when I'm blowing off this, I'm not blowing the pigment away. I'm actually blowing off little pieces of plaster, because as this stuff cures, there's little tiny bits that just crumble off. They're like little pieces of sand, so I'm just getting them out of the way. Otherwise, they're just going to sit there and roll around. 21 decent selection. Nice, very nice, completely unopened. You need to crack those open, man. Open those pigments up and give them a shot. Anytime I do any kind of a diorama with a base of something, you know, like this, especially like this, but the last little base I did was a Star Wars build, and I used these a lot on that because I was trying to recreate a desert type landscape for one of my Star Wars builds, and yeah, it worked great. It worked really well at achieving that kind of color transition. And just spread it around, you know. I know you guys can see that, but just that little bit that I've put in those areas, just highlighting each one of those low spots, and you can blend it out very easily. You've been busy. And we all have. We all have. Looking forward to seeing Tim Harkins back in the mix. He started putting videos up again of his new studio, so it sounds like he's gonna resurface here on a regular basis, which is going to be cool. It's nice seeing him again. But we shall see. The thing is, we all have been. I understand, Koda. That's looking good. I can even go over with some of the lighter pigment too. And earlier I was talking about some of these little air bubbles. This stuff's great for getting in there because it just coats the surface enough. So if you do get one of those little pockets, and it looks like a white dot because the plaster underneath is just stark white. So you hit it with some of this powder and it just disappears. So it makes it super easy to cover up those little holes. And this color is just helping me blend away some of those harder edges with the black that I had put down earlier. Getting back to normalcy, as normal as it was anyway. Yeah, this is true. That's good to hear. Because he had a rough year, but he's come out of it with flying colors. So I'm happy for him. All right. So what do you guys think so far? You can kind of see how this is starting to shape by adding these pigments and stuff, and just pulling these little creases and stuff out a little bit, making them a little bit of color separation with the higher and lower level layers of I like it so far. I'll just keep tweaking it. Add a little bit, a little more here, a little more there until you get it right. Tim Studios making you jealous? Yeah, it's nice having your own little build space. I mean, I've been fortunate that the house I live in here is a 3-bedroom. So now I've got a guest room, and then I have this room, which is my hobby room. This is solely for my projects and stuff. Thanks, George. Very nice shadow. Yeah, the camera is kind of making it look a lot brighter than it actually is. It's a little bit softer in person, um, but you can. It does work really well. It's hard to believe that this was actually 2 large molds and then a bunch of smaller pieces kind of crammed together, and then I glued them all together with a thin batch of some plaster. Just kind of poured it over everything. I do have some touching up to do around the edge of this base too. I pulled the tape probably a little too early. I should have looked at it, but I needed to take it because originally when I taped this, I taped it with a lip so the plaster wouldn't go out when I poured it. And so I had to pull it off to see what looked like underneath, and then it was the only way I could get in and fill some of those gaps up that were missed. But I got to go through. I'll go around it and make some touch-ups and stuff. So right now I'm just kind of looking for those little areas that I need to darken up a bit with some of this pigment. This is right where the kit's going to go. By the way, this is just a scrap piece of 3/8 rod that's in place of where the actual stand piece is going to go. So they took this is the original stand, this piece of crap. I cut off the portion that attaches to the model, and then I cut off the edges of it and made like a spine. So then I just took my Dremel and I cut a groove in the rod and then just spliced it right in. It was actually the same size. The width is about 3/8 of an inch, so it really spliced in there very nicely. And that will be hidden behind the model. You really won't see that once it's on, and nobody's really going to pay attention to that anyway. Not too worried about that. I tried to get it as polished as I could so the clear plastic of the acrylic rod would kind of look blend nicely and not look like it was really a piece that was spliced in there. Six. Yeah, 10 more minutes, guys, and then I gotta call it. This was kind of put together on a whim. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do a broadcast tonight because of what happened last night, and we were supposed to go do some fun kind of tastings at a winery today, but we decided not to do that because of I needed to stay close to home and keep an eye on her. So I'm just moving this powder around, getting into those little grooves. And I'll go back over this too. With a fine-tooth comb, make sure that I got all those little pockets filled up, so there's none of those little white bits that are coming through, or little air bubbles that pop up from time to time. All right. And that's looking really nice. I like it. I like it so far. So I've got a little bit more in here I gotta get. The tricky part's gonna be shipping this. I think I'll be all right. I've got a big, fairly, it's small enough that it can be a carry-on, but it's kind of like a clear box. And then I've got pieces of sheet foam that I cut up, and what I'll do is the two bases will be on top. All the kits will be underneath. I'll just put those up there, and that way if TSA has to do any kind of inspection, it's right on top. Because I've never traveled with a big plaster mold before, and I'm not sure what that's going to look like in an X-ray machine. You know what I mean? Photos. Yeah, this works out really well because it's just a fine enough powder that it gets in there and then just blends really nicely without having to do any airbrush shading or anything. It's a step saver too. I think if you didn't have this stuff, you'd have to probably airbrush it or something to get that same kind of effect. But this has all been done by hand. And believe me, it does look lighter on camera. It actually is quite a bit darker. I think for a first, second layer of color, I think we're looking pretty good. A little bit more in here. If you do buy some of this stuff, make sure, not the pigments, I'm talking about the plaster now. If you buy make sure you're buying hydrocal. Because I bought a carton of stuff that I thought was hydrocal, and it turns out it was like a scenic landscaping type stuff, and it was really crumbly, lightweight, and not very strong. It really just made a huge mess, and it was a big disaster. So I ended up going back on and getting a box of the hydrocal. I just grabbed it in the store. We were in the hobby store, and I saw the carton, and it looked exactly like the same kind of carton that the hydrocal comes in. It's going to look like an extra 30 minutes of security. Yeah, let's hope not. I really hope not. Last time I went through with model kits, they just kind of looked at me like, what is that? And I just kind of smiled at them. As long as there's no wires or batteries or anything you get nervous about, they usually don't have a problem with it. But like I said, I just don't know how this plaster is going to show up on a radar, or not radar, on a X-ray. Oh shit! No. I thought that was a crumble, and I just knocked off a big chunk of it. So that's what we do that for. There, fixed. All right. Ultra Cal is what you use for special effects mold making. Is that similar to Hydrocal? I'll put this on screen so everybody can see it. Ultra Cal is what's used. Is it a plaster, like it dries hard, lightweight and hard, or is it softer, like chalky? Because the stuff I did buy it by accident was very crumbly. It was almost like the material it was made of was crystally, but just like dirt. Oh, it's harder. Oh, okay. I wonder how that would work like this, using it for this stuff. Maybe it's not a good idea because it does dry so hard. I don't know. Oh, that's done for now. All right, so we got two different colors of the actually three different colors of the weathering color and the Mr. Color stuff. A couple different colors, or just one of my pigments, and that's the end result so far. So you can keep adding to it and getting a little more. I think I'm going to try adding some of those other colors, like maybe green or something, try to match that screenshot I have of the Hi Nu. But yeah, unfortunately, I've got to call this one done for now. I've got to go make sure I attend to my wife. She needs me. Had kind of a spill last night at a hockey game and injured herself. So I got injured by some other guy, and by accident she fell, hit her head, and yeah. So she's fine. Don't get me wrong, she's fine. But I just need to help her with dinner and getting around and doing things because she's got a bandage on her head. So with that being said, be good humans, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe. It only helps this channel grow, and thank you so much for supporting this art form, helping me, and supporting me in these projects, and people egging me on to actually start doing videos so we can. You bet, Coda. See you later, bud. Doing these videos so people can get a better idea of what we do and the techniques involved and how we do it, and hopefully help other people branch out and try new things and try new skills and develop new skills and evolve and become bigger, better builders. You know what I mean. I think you know what I mean. All right, you guys. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you next Sunday, hopefully. I will put out a message and let you know that when I schedule the broadcast, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for joining. We'll talk to you soon.